It's a warm welcome to all of you gathered here. The Economic Times Young Leaders B School Edition, presented by the Aditya Birla Group, is a platform for recognizing and rewarding India's most promising final year management students. This initiative is meant to identify, encourage, and nurture young individuals who may be stepping up into the corridors of India Inc. for the very first time. This year's edition of the program received participation from approximately 13,000 final year students from B schools across India. Students underwent assessments in the form of online tests, case studies across 3 phases. And today, 45 finalists were interviewed by some of India's top business leaders. And we will very soon announce the list for Economic Times Young Leaders B School Edition 2015. It's a privilege to welcome Director Group HR, Aditya Birla Group, and CEO of Carbon Black, Dr. Santrup Mishra.
I perhaps have the easiest and the simplest job because the jury members, my colleagues here, had the toughest job of identifying the ET young leaders. And you guys perhaps had the toughest job of answering their tough questions. But I have a very simple task, that is to welcome all of you. I welcome all of you as students. I know many of your deans and academic partners from your institutions are there, which is again great to have you all here. You are the reason why we are doing it, and I must take a minute or so to say why we're doing it. Aditya Birla Group has been the leader in terms of being perhaps first truly global corporation from India. And we believe that we could dream and dare to be on the global platform because we were led by a visionary leader, late Mr. Aditya Bikram Birla as chairman, who took this company beyond the shores of India much before globalization became a fashionable expression. And of course, subsequently, under our current chairman, Mr. Kumar Mangalam Birla, we have continued our globalization journey, and we believe that all of this has been possible because of leadership. Within the group, to build future leaders, we have a lot of programs that many of you would know on your campuses, that we recruit people for Aditya Birla Group Leadership Program. So we do a lot of investment within. But being a very highly community-spirited organization, we asked our question that if the problems of the world today are on account of less leadership, poor leadership, can we also contribute to the concept of Indian leadership, leadership from India, with a view to the future? Some people sometimes argue that youth is vested on young people. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think if we had the youth of all these people who are around, I don't know what we would do with it. I think the hallmark of youth is that you can achieve the impossible, and if you can't achieve, at least you believe you can achieve the impossible. And ET Young Leaders Program, in partnership with us, and I would like to take a moment to thank Economic Times for partnering with us on this, is meant precisely to do that, to build an alternate concept of leadership, to inculcate the spirit of leadership, give you an opportunity to challenge by people who have been themselves leaders in their lives, and of course make a big difference to wherever you go, to your life, to the companies that you work for, or the companies, more importantly, that you set up for yourself, and ultimately make a big difference to this country, great country called India, and to this great planet in which we all live. And I hope that this has been an enjoyable experience for you, and nothing will give us great pleasure, irrespective of wherever you work, whatever you do, many years down the line for us to look and see your pictures in Economic Times or your conversation in Economic Times television to say that you all have emerged as true leaders. Thank you again on behalf of Aditya Birla Group, and welcome to today's function. Thank you.
Please welcome Executive Editor, ET Now, Mr. Sandeep Gurumurthy, who's going to step up and conduct a panel discussion. The theme, how can companies engage with B schools better? Ladies and gentlemen, Sandeep Gurumurthy.
So the topic of our discussion this afternoon is how can corporates engage better with B schools? And I want to start off with some of the CEOs who were in the panel last year as well. Sanjay, Rishi, let me start with you. What did you make of the talent pool that was available this morning? How were your interactions with some of the bright young students this morning?
I think in general, the quality of the candidates was much stronger. And I also like the diversity in candidates, not just gender diversity, but also, I would say, social diversity. I'm seeing a greater dispersion of people who are coming from not just big town India, but also growing small town India, people who are coming from all sorts of backgrounds, and people who have experienced some life-changing adversities which have defined them and made them stronger individuals.
Dave, you were also there last year as well. Would you reckon
That is true. I think the diversity point came across very strongly this time. And more part of women. I think the women candidates this time, at least in our panel, were very, very good.
Ajay, you want to comment on that, on the broad profile of students that you interviewed this morning, and what were your key takeaways?
A much greater sense of balance between work and other interests that I've picked up this year. A lot of people with some really amazing interests outside of work. And I think the second thing was a huge interest in the social sector. It was quite amazing to see the number of people who are aligned to causes and spend some of their extra time wanting to spend time on causes that they're very passionate about.
You know, Rekha, the profile of students, the fact that they came from diverse backgrounds as well, was that an important key takeaway for you as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fact that there was such a diversity in the background, both from their socioeconomic backgrounds, from the kind of experiences they'd had, but also from what they'd done before they came into the schools that they've come into. I was looking at this thing, my gosh, you know, before they entered their MBA, they've already accomplished so much. So I was like awestruck by the group. Amazing group.
Ajay, you know, what do businesses fundamentally need from B schools?
I think clearly talent that's able to shape the corporate goals. And I think given the change that's happening in that area, I think the B schools in general need to be a little bit more aware of what's happening and what's changing in the way management's happening. And I think align the course to really where management is going. I think that's where I see the need for corporates and B schools to work better together.
Amazon, Amit, of course, hires a lot from the top B schools as well. What was your experience this morning, given the kind of cross-section of students that you met across some of the top campuses in the country?
I was very impressed by the clarity of purpose, and even the purpose was driven by their own life experiences and by the social problems that the country is really facing, or the infrastructural problems the country is facing. So things that stood out for me was how good the future for India is, given how passionate people are about some really hard problems that the country is facing.
Pranab, you would have comment on that? Clarity of purpose is a point that Amit here made. Is there a standout quality that you've seen in young leaders nowadays?
Yeah, I think to me what came through, apart from many of the comments already passed, is the clarity of thought. And we were looking at that, and we were also focusing on the values and what kind of values they bring to the table, what values they have in their own personal lives, what they bring to the working life. And they were able to articulate that, which I think even today, that's one of the things that the companies struggle with, as what purpose are they there for, what kind of values they bring to the table. And as everyone is reflecting on that, the clarity of thought that came through was amazing.
You know, Vivek, everyone's been speaking about gender diversity, and it's great to have gender diversity in the kind of students that we introduce. But fundamentally, that's a key issue, isn't it? What can we really do to improve gender diversity in B schools, and in turn, that'll improve gender diversity in corporate India? Because, you know, corporate India hires from these B schools, so unless it gets sorted at B schools, it's not going to get sorted in corporate India.
You know, I think we are taking steps, but these are still very small steps. I do feel pretty hopeful that a lot of us are trying to experiment a lot more to be able to make the environment a lot more diverse. I think business schools will have to take a look at also how they recruit people, what kind of admissions tests are there. Are those admissions tests much more biased towards, you know, male skill sets? Can we create a much more whole-brained way of recruiting people? So I think business schools have a very important job to also do to ensure that they can actually create more diversity in their classrooms. The faculty also has to be more diverse. And so I think once you have enough business school graduates who are women, it will also filter into the corporate world.
Rekha, you know, what do you really think can be done both at the level of B schools and at the level of corporate India to improve gender diversity?
So we're going to have to do some things fairly radically. I mean, one of them, of course, what has happened is with the New Companies Act, you know, it's almost forcing companies to appoint women directors. So that's one step. At the other end of the B school, on the B school stuff, changing what your intake is. Because if you look at even today of our panel that we interviewed, men and women, largely biased towards engineering campuses, largely biased towards STEM, which is okay, but is that what we need in business itself? We don't. Actually, we need fair set of liberal arts degrees, right? And because the thinking that brings in and the emotional capacity that brings in is different. So let's start changing our hiring pattern there itself. And then, of course, within the organizations, enabling mechanisms to make sure that you're not biasing towards that there's mentoring, et cetera, that can happen. But it has to be a fairly radical approach from the top.
Shogata, a radical approach from the top, and also at the point that Vivek made as well, that probably at the entry level, especially in B schools, they are skewed in favor of skill sets that probably may suit men more. I mean, though, we could argue on that as well, but would you agree that there needs to be a radical change there as well? Get more liberal arts people as well?
I think right now, I think the admission system into the B schools is biased towards STEM. And I am very glad there are, today, even in India, there is somewhere a movement towards liberal arts. And the second thing is, once you have, the people entering corporates, our entire performance management system, the evaluation system is something which I think ensures a level playing field. The issue that happens, and this is my personal experience in the organization, is a lot of people leave their work after some time in the early 30s, early 35. How do you create an enabling environment for the people to carry on into the senior levels? Because whenever the first, they have their first kid or they take a break, that is the point. Those who have passed out in the 80s or early 90s, how many are continuing their careers, after their 35s or 40s? Right? To me, that's the crux out there.
Satish, for a company like Hindalco, I guess it's going to be tough for you to hire people from liberal arts background. But how can manufacturing corporations as well look at getting a more diverse set of people?
First thing is that trying to say to get gender diversity, you need to have more liberal arts. There itself, you are having a stereotype that's wrong. And I'll tell you, when we hire our graduate engineer trainees now, 35% engineering graduates we are hiring are women. The problem is, probably as Shogata was saying, as you get in and how the ecosystem and the support systems in a company are, and how do you propagate in that middle management level. That's where the issues are. And at the middle management, there are some practical issues. That in a woman's life, you have, some things are going to happen. You're going to go have kids. You have to have the ability to come back and step onto the treadmill again without missing a beat. So many companies, that's the place where they are focusing quite a lot on. So I think that, even in a metals company, it is certainly not a problem at all to get women in. And I think that it actually should be encouraged. In my opinion, if you hire women and just keep them in HR and finance and air-conditioned offices, you're not doing anything good to the rights of women.
Amit, how can companies support on-campus entrepreneurship in a much bigger way?
We have this pretty comprehensive program to, as we say, educate, engage, and empower B school students as a part of their training. So the key focus is how do you bring real-life experiences closer to them while they are also getting the academic experience that they're getting. So in case of the first part, a big part of a program is the internship program, and that has to be coupled with a strong mentorship with a senior leader. So interns at Amazon are put right into the middle of the business problem. The second part of it, as we call it, is engaging. And we have done a few of these. We have gone to, in the last couple of years, we have taken what we call as live business cases to the schools themselves, and we just give them the problem. It's like outsourcing the problem that I'm facing and say, why don't you go and solve it? And we'll give you the support you need. If that needs engagement with leaders, it allows them to experience a real life situation while they are doing case studies of their own that are from old business schools. And the last one is about empowering them. So we actually partnered with schools to create a curriculum that is bringing some real life situations, for example, supply chain, operations. These are new skill sets in some ways, especially in our industry. We even organize visits to fulfillment centers, distribution centers, so that they can get like a lab situation visibility. So I would say these are examples of things that we are already doing, and we're seeing a lot of success in that. Our dependency on placement is significantly lower than dependency on these pre-placement programs.
Dilip, I'm sure you've been visiting campuses for many years now. Do you see a tectonic shift in aspirations of students as well? Do you see that now a lot more of them have entrepreneurial ambitions than they had, say, 5 years or a decade ago?
I tend to agree with you fully. In fact, we saw it today itself. There are students, while in the campus, they are working with the startups. And I think the ambitions and aspirations are growing significantly. And I think what is happening, this whole startup phenomena has made a huge difference. So people are able to use their mind creatively and at the same time create value, I think. I fully tend to agree with you.
How can corporate India better engage with students when their aspirations itself are to be entrepreneurs and to do something on their own? How can India Inc. really better engage with these students then?
I went and saw StartX, which is really the Stanford University's startup platform. And that is something that I think biz schools in India can emulate. And StartX, it encourages students who are coming out of Stanford and maybe who have worked for a couple of years and then want to come back and use the platform to grow and to sort of get incubated and accelerated. And they engage a lot of corporates to come and talk to them, see if there is something that interests them, and sort of, even if it is something that is useful, then they mentor them and sort of take them up. So I think there is a possibility here that is waiting to be exploited, but the business schools will have to start this acceleration program, and the corporates will jump into it.
Sanjay, what's the MNC view on this, on this visible shift in aspirations of students and its impact on MNCs? For example, when you go to hire in a campus, the brightest may not be available because they may want to have, they may have entrepreneurial ambitions. How do multinational corporations look at this?
Yeah, the challenge is going to be for companies across the board, whether multinationals or Indian, is how do you replicate the conditions of a startup in your own company? And how do you create an environment that gives them all the excitement of a startup, all the risk-taking capacity of a startup, yet you give them a safety net of a large corporation? If you can achieve that, then that would be an incredibly powerful employment value proposition. So companies today are rife with, whether you're in the e-commerce space, in the payment space, in the banking space, in the product consumer space, they're rife with problems looking for solutions. These schools have skills looking for problems. And I think we can achieve a very good harmony if we replicate those conditions of startup in large companies. And we're trying to do that.
But Dev, again, jobs the traditional way they were 10 years ago, 15 years ago, are they going to cease to exist 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line? Do you think the conservative...
I think so, first of all, you have to understand that automation, disintermediation, these are going to destroy a lot of jobs. So jobs as we see them will cease to exist. So might as well stop looking for instructions generally in life. You have to start thinking, ideating, converting it into action.
Vivek, you have a contrary view, or would you agree with what they say?
On this whole idea of entrepreneurialism, though, I do worry a little bit, because the reality is 90% of these companies will fail, and that's going to be the track record. So it may create a bunch of youngsters who are very impatient, who get very disillusioned. Because, there are some companies which see success overnight. But as Amit can even testify, even a company like Amazon, it's taken them a lot of blood, sweat, and hard work over decades to get successful. But there is a risk that we are creating a generation of people who actually want quick fire, rapid results, immediate success. But 90% will fail, and I don't think business schools today are teaching people on how to embrace failure.
Okay, let me quickly get closing comments. Then, Rekha, to you first. What would be your one key advice to all these young graduates whom you just met this morning?
My only advice would be that stay curious and stay learning, and that's what will help you.
Philip, you want to?
Get to the depth. I have always believed the depth is what will take you through. So in the initial years of your job, you must be good at what you are doing and demonstrate that you have got the right skills. And I think thereafter, the width comes. And as you go up and up, you must think more strategically. But in the initial years are all about functional excellence and doing a job well.
Saugata, let you have the last word. What would be your advice to some of these young, bright students?
If you have a dream, just go achieve it. I think today's country, I think they have enough opportunities. Even if you fail, it's okay, but just keep on trying, and I think there are enough opportunities. Don't ever have a fear of failure. I think the passion to succeed should be much higher than your fear of failure.
Big round of applause for all the CEOs here. Thank you for being such a wonderful panel.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to announce the Economic Times Young Leaders B School Edition 2015 winners. This event is presented by the Aditya Birla Group. Please put your hands together for Asta Kumar from the Faculty of Management Studies, Delhi. From the Symbiosis Center for Management and Human Resource Development, Pune, it's Ankit Ashok Srivastava. Astha Agarwal from the Indian School of Business, ISB, Hyderabad. ISB Mohali, Chitra Malik. And from Jamshedpur, the XLRI School of Management, please welcome Divya Agarwal. From the Narsi Monji Institute of Management Studies, NMIMS, Mumbai, Gitika Bajaj. Eshan Khare from IIM Indore. From the Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow, Janita Bhadresh Shah. And Kanav Goyal from ISB, Hyderabad. From Principal L.N. Velinkar Institute of Management Development and Research, Mumbai, Meena Subhash Dhondre. And now, Nishant Jayant from Management Development Institute, Gurgaon. From IIM Lucknow, Prasanna Kumar Nagesh Bendre. Pratap PS from NMIMS, Mumbai. The next awardee is from IIM Indore. Please welcome Pratik Vijay Kumar Nikam. And now from the National Institute of Industrial Engineering, Mumbai, it's Praveen Kumar Gopal Sami. A student of IIM Kolkata is also amongst the winners. She's an exchange student, so of course the certificate will be sent to her later. She's Reshma Babu. But right now, please welcome on stage from the Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management Studies, Mumbai, Rohan Sandeep Mankame. From IIM Kozhikode, Ruchi Singh. From the Indian School of Business, ISB Hyderabad, Saransh Dua. IIM Lucknow, Shweta Subramaniam. IIM Indore, Vijay Arur. And ISB Mohali, Vivek Rohila. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause to all our awardees this evening. I'd like to request on stage the Group Executive President and Group HR for Aditya Birla Group, Mr. Ashok Ramachandran, to step up on stage and to say a few remarks.
Thank you. So can we start by thanking our entire panel with a big round of applause? In some sense, they set the tone for future leaders. So let me turn the mic around to say, can we thank all our participants for wholehearted, fantastic participation? Is that right? I think it's fantastic. 12,400 participants down to 46. So congratulations to all 46 and specific congratulations to 22. You inspire the teams ahead, and I'm sure there are future leaders. So may the future be bright for each of you, and all the very best to each of you who are assembled here, and do well as you move forward. We must also thank the faculty members and our professors who are here for pushing you, for guiding you, for being kind of giving you this opportunity to come into these kind of forums. And I must thank ET and the ABG organizing teams for putting it all together for us. So let me simply end with that tone of saying I hope your futures shine bright, irrespective of if it's a startup or a corporate or a conglomerate or an MNC. Definition of success may be varied, but I'm sure each of you will lead to your own success. On that tone, all the very best. God bless you. Thank you.